This is how I make Johnny Harrus style documentaries using nothing but AI.
In June 1948, the Soviet Union sealed every road, rail line and canal into West Berlin. 2 million people trapped with only about a month of food left. Berlin sat over 100 miles deep inside Soviet territory. On the ground, there was no way in.
This style has always been out of reach for most people because it needs archival footage you probably can't get and motion design skills that take years to master. So most people watch a video like this and think it's impossible. But here's the thing, every single frame of that was generated. And by the end of this video, you'll be able to take any moment in history and turn it into your own mini documentary, because we'll be doing all of it inside Higgsfield, which is an all-in-one platform that has everything we need for this. And we'll be jumping between a few different tools constantly, so having them in one place actually matters here. If you want to follow along, I'll leave a link to Higgsfield in the description below. Before we can recreate anything, we have to understand it first. So we'll have to watch enough of his videos to understand the style that's making him unique. And once we have a good feel for it, we'll head over to Pinterest and search for keywords that match his style, like Johnny Harrus style, vox map documentary, and paper texture infographic. And what we're really looking for comes down to these 5 things. Once we grab enough references that capture all 5 of those things, we'll create a Figma board and dump every single one of them in there. Then we'll export the whole board as a PDF, so later on the AI has one clean reference file to pull from. Now that we got our style locked, we can move on to the story. And this is where most people overthink it and try to pick something huge with 100 moving pieces and end up with a story that's impossible to follow. Because here's the thing, a good documentary isn't about the biggest event in history. It's about one clear moment told really well. So we'll open up Claude and ask it for a 60-second script we can make about a realistic historic event, narrated in the Johnny Harrus style. And once we get our story back, we won't just settle with whatever Claude gave us. We'll ask it and tweak the story as much as we want until we've got the 4 ingredients that every Johnny Harrus documentary needs. Because these 4 elements are what make a Johnny Harrus documentary actually hit. And without them, we just have a Wikipedia summary read out loud. But even now, with our story finalized, we have to bring it to life with a voiceover, and this is where Higgsfield comes in. And like I said, there is a link in the description below if you want to follow along. So we'll hover over audio and click voiceover. Then we'll choose our narrator and set our model to 11v3. For this one, I went with Arthur. We'll paste in our story and hit generate.
In June 1948, the Soviet Union sealed every road, rail line and canal into West Berlin.
As you can see, this sounds great from the first try. And now that we are done with that, we're going to build the world that our story is going to take place in. Because if we start generating our clips right away, hoping they line up with the voiceover, we're going to end up with a mess. So we need a scene-by-scene blueprint that tells us exactly what to generate and how to effortlessly keep a nice flow in our final video. We'll go back to Claude, and this time we're going to use it to plan out every single shot before we generate anything. And we'll feed it 2 things: the Figma style PDF we exported earlier, and our 60-second script, because the script tells Claude what to say and the style PDF tells it how it should look. And without both, the blueprint falls apart. Then we'll ask it to break our story down into a scene-by-scene plan with timestamps and tag every single scene with one of 2 layer types. Because here's the thing, his style is 2 layers working together. The B-roll gives every scene that documentary feel. And the overlays on top, the arrows, the labels, the dotted flight paths, that's what gives him his personality. And missing either one is how most people end up with something that just looks like generic AI footage. That's why our plan has to spell out both layers, scene by scene, before we touch a single generation. The output we want is a clean table with 5 columns: the shot number, the timestamp, the layer, the motion prompt, and the overlay. Because once we have this table, we're not guessing anymore. Every scene has a plan, every plan has a prompt, and every prompt has a place on the timeline. That table right here is the entire rest of our video mapped out. And now that we know we are following a safe route to create a video that looks like a real Johnny Harrus documentary, we're starting with images before we even think about animation. Because if we try to animate something that already looks wrong, no amount of motion is going to save it. So we'll take the very first row of our our table, grab the image prompt from it, and drop it straight into Higgsfield. They generate one image, and no matter the result, they move on with the next, meaning they settle with images that could be bad for their story and never even know it, which leads to a boring documentary with zero visual impact. Instead, we'll keep regenerating until we create the perfect shot that fits with our story. Once we got the image we like, we'll repeat that for every row in our table. One image per shot, tuned until it looks like Johnny Harrus shot it himself. But here's the thing, I didn't generate the maps. I went to Wikimedia, typed in the name and the date of the map I needed, and pulled a real historical one straight from there. That way, we're using an actual archival map from the exact time period without running into any copyright issues from the original creator. And by the end, we've got every still frame of our documentary ready to go. Now, a stack of still images isn't a documentary yet, but a stack of simple videos doesn't mean it's going to feel like a Johnny Harrus documentary either, because his shots aren't just clips, they're alive. And that's why we're going to use the same workflow we used for the images. Keep generating until we get the clip we want, then move on to the next. And Higgsfield makes this easier than it has any right to be, because we can take every single image we just generated and turn it into a moving shot without touching a single frame in After Effects. So we'll hover over video and click Create Video. We'll upload our first still frame and pull the motion prompt straight from our table. Then we'll set our model to Seedance, bump the quality up to 1080p, and hit Generate. And here's the part most tutorials skip. The prompt of the image and the video has to be different, because the image already holds the entire look. So the motion prompt only needs to tell Higgsfield what moves and how. So we'll paste our prompt and hit Generate. And from here, we'll just repeat this for every single shot in our table. Same workflow, same regenerate button until we've got every clip we need. And if you want the exact prompt pack I used to make this documentary, I've dropped the whole thing in the description. Every image prompt, every motion prompt, every timestamp, all of it, ready to paste straight into Higgsfield. And by the end, we have every single visual we need, timed to the voiceover, styled to match Johnny, and ready to be stacked in the edit. But before we move on, I gotta be honest with you. A bunch of these generations came back completely wrong. Some were still, some were way too much, some broke the whole aesthetic, and there's one specific trick that fixed almost every single one of them. Every time a shot came back wrong, we went back into Higgsfield and cut the prompt in half and kept only the core motion, removed every describing word that was fighting with the image, and within a few tries, the shots started snapping into place. But the final piece of the puzzle is turning it all into an actual documentary. So we'll open up our editing tool, and the very first thing that hits the timeline is our voiceover. Then we'll start pulling clips into the timeline, one by one, snapping each shot to the second it's supposed to hit. But if we stop here, we don't have a Johnny Harrus documentary yet. We just have a slideshow with narration. And this next part is where most people get it wrong, because they'll cut between the base clip and the overlays, treating them like two separate scenes. Instead, we'll stack them. The base clip on one layer and every arrow, label, and call out on the layer above playing at the same time. That's the signature move.
In June 1948, the Soviet Union sealed every road, rail line and canal into West Berlin. 2 million people trapped with only about a month of food left. Berlin sat over 100 miles deep inside Soviet territory. On the ground, there was no way in. But there were 3 air corridors, each one 20 miles wide, so the West flew. For over 300 days, planes landed roughly every 90 seconds. Coal, flour, medicine, nearly 2.5 million tons of supplies in over 250,000 flights. On their busiest day, they flew almost 1,400 sorties, just to prove they could. In May, the Soviets reopened the roads. We remember it as an airlift. It was really a demonstration that a blockade could be answered without firing a single shot.
But you might have noticed one thing carrying every single step of this workflow: the prompts. And if you don't know how to write them properly from scratch, none of this actually works for you the way it worked for me. So click the video on screen right now where I break down the exact prompting guide I wish I had when I first started, so you can write prompts that hit on the first try. See you in the next one.